Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the October program for LAI San Diego. I'm going to give us just a moment for everybody to kind of join and get added in here. Great. Well, I think we will start here. Again, welcome to LAI San Diego's October event. We're turning our attention and excited to focus on North County and to hear everything about the investment and success and booming that's happening in our North County. I want to let everyone know, and just as a reminder, in case you didn't see it in the event email that went out, we're changing it up today. And after the conclusion of the main part of the program, we're going to do a half-hour, just a live, more interactive Q&A with our panelists here. So I hope that everyone will join us for that. Towards the end of the event, you're going to have to sign off this main event and sign on to the Q&A. So towards the end of the event, we will post a Zoom link for that in the chat here. So keep a lookout for that. And one more thing before I turn it over to Paul Mara, who's going to introduce our esteemed moderator and panelists. Just want to take a moment to let you know about the remaining events coming up as we close out 2021. We will have a November program taking a look at regional shopping centers and what's changing with those in November. We are excited to be hosting an in-person holiday event in December. And then last but not least, we are really excited to be able to host our gala, the event that we've had to postpone quite a bit this year, but we will be looking to do that in January. So please keep an eye out for save the dates coming out on all of those very shortly. And with that, I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I'm going to turn it over to Paul to introduce the rest of our program. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brooke, and hello to everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to help kickstart the panel today. This panel started from a conversation that Danny Reeves and I had many months ago about what was happening in North County. Our firm works with many of the cities throughout the county, but in particular North County, I was noticing major new developments in the downtowns and the villages, and just a sudden surge of transformation after many years of being kind of sleepy, quiet environments. So I'm excited that we have this panel today. It's somewhat outside our typical Lambda Alpha circumference. I'm really pleased about that. I'm very grateful to Davia Lynch for stepping up today to moderate, sort of serving as our guest moderator to guide today's discussion. I know she and the panel put a lot of time into preparing this for today. I was reflecting that I first met Davia on a bus in Tijuana about 15 years ago. We were on, I think, on a ULI tour many years ago, and we talked quite a bit as we got on and off this bus through the tour. I think Davia brings a fresh perspective to this topic and to Lambda Alpha in general, with a very diverse background in land use planning and development issues, with her experience at the county, North County Transit, and now as Director of Development Services in San Marcos. Really the whole spectrum from rural to urban, and having lived in North County and downtown, just the right person to moderate today's discussion. So a big thank you to Davia and the panel for joining us today, not just for your time today. I know a lot of effort's gone into preparing this discussion, and we're really looking forward to your vision and excitement about what's happening in your communities and what many of you are doing to create this transformation in the North County downtowns. So with that, I will turn it over to Davia to introduce the panel and take it away. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Paul. I really appreciate it. And I am very honored to be here with these all of you LI members and guests, and to be a part of bringing together this really exceptional panel of very progressive thinkers and doers who are spearheading some truly catalytic development in North County, as I think you touched on, Paul. These individuals, in my work with them over the past few months and having known them historically, really have that rare ability to put together the right people the right resources and the framework to create and add value to a really high degree, and also create place in a genuinely context sensitive way. And I think there's some magic to that. There's some art and some science that they seem to have harnessed. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panel members. First, we have Michelle Geller, who is the Economic Development Manager for the City of Oceanside. Michelle's been working in the public sector for almost 20 years, a lot of different roles, from neighborhood outreach to marketing and communications, business development for a lot of different cities. So a really broad background and a deep background in economic development. Michelle was one of the first accredited California economic developers. It's so new, I barely even know the acronym at this point. And for the past 3 years, she's been the Economic Development Manager for Oceanside. So a very exciting time to be in that role, and also a very challenging time, and we look forward to hearing about that. Next, we have Darren Levitt, who is the Vice President for Seabreeze Properties. That is the innovative firm behind North City in the San Marcos area. And Darren is stepping in for Gary and has been involved in every aspect of North City, from the development end to curating a really special group or mix of tenants in that neighborhood that I think have been part of what has drawn people from all over the region to really get excited about North City, even in its very early years. So we'll hear more about that as well. And finally, certainly last but not least, we have Lev Gershman, who is the founding and managing partner of Tideline Partners. Tideline is a real estate development and investment management firm that focuses on mixed use infill opportunities and cultivates communities, increases connectivity, and provides access to green space with those communities. And we'll really see that embodied in the work that you'll share with us today, Lev. So very excited to see that. And along with your passion for placemaking, I know you have a very strong financial background with over a decade in working with various institutional finance and risk roles, or in those capacities, over billions of dollars in financing and workouts over time. So you've got that really strong background that I hope is responsive to a lot of our guests today, and we get to talk about that. All right, so I'd like to give a little intro on what we're talking about. I think Paul did a great job of that, but it is in fact the case that North County has grown up and is really beginning to grow up in recent years. We have planned it. Many folks in my capacity have been planning it, but it didn't come. But now it has emerged, it's here. And we are clearly ready for new dense development in our downtowns here in North County. I think we can speculate why that is to some degree. If I could ask if anyone's not muted, if you could kindly mute, we'll go ahead and thank you very much. That'll help us out.
So, the video is off.
Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. All right. Getting a little feedback there. So I was going to say, I think we can speculate that this is a result of, or maybe even a cause of, some of these really distinct neighborhoods and communities becoming more known, more popular throughout the North County area. I think Lev referred to that as an LAization of San Diego to some degree, with these pockets of different types of culture and opportunity and experience throughout the region, including throughout North County. So an LAization in the positive sense. But with that, I think we also have to realize that traffic is a factor or variable here. People do not want to drive if they don't have to go to work. And so we're beginning to really improve that fabric of North County so that we can get what we want in the North County area, and just have the added benefit of all the other downtown San Diego, Tijuana, East County experiences that we can enjoy. So North County has really become a place unto itself, as well as having some really unique offerings. So today we're going to highlight some of those exciting projects that embody this maturation, and talk a little bit about the secrets to success. We know that part of that is driven by market issues, but there's also a really important public sector component that we wanted to explore, and that's why we have this diverse panel with us to talk about that synergy. So with that, let's start with you, Michelle. Let's start with the big picture. Oceanside has the fabric of an existing historic downtown that the public and private sector came together to reimagine. And we know that it is absolutely booming right now. It's been planned for quite some time, but the big changes we've seen have happened in, I would estimate, the past 5 to 10 years, with seemingly an exponential increase over the past 5 years with some of the hotel development. Can you talk to us a little bit today about what is that public-private sector synergy that's happening? What's happened and why? What's going on in Oceanside? Tell us more, please.
Thanks, Davia. And then I have some slides here, if you don't mind. I'll also show and tell here. Can you see that okay? All right. So yeah, thanks. I really appreciate this opportunity to just share a bit about our redevelopment success here in Oceanside over the last, decade and a half. To put things into perspective, I thought I'd just share some kind of quick facts about Oceanside. We're 42 square miles, bordering our friends to the north at Camp Pendleton. It's a nice 200 square mile buffer with Orange County and LA. We're the third largest city in San Diego County. We're the fourth oldest city in San Diego County. Escondido and Oceanside incorporated in the same year, 1888. We have about 6,800 businesses, about half of which are brick and mortar. And then these are our industry clusters. We have major employers like Tri-City Hospital, Genentech, Hobie Cat, Suja Juice, and then of course tourism. Our tourism industry was really on an upswing at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. When the pandemic hit, obviously we were impacted, but we really did, remarkably well over the last 18 months in comparison to a lot of regions. Let's see here. My slide is not advancing. Let me try something else. Sorry for the technical difficulty there. Let's see if this works. Yes, okay. So sorry for this very dry map. I'll just quickly show it, but it happens to be our city council districts. But I wanted to show you just, downtown in comparison to the rest of Oceanside. Oceanside is really big, and downtown in comparison is just 10% of our land area. But we've chosen to invest a ton of resources into this, small red rectangle here, because it really is a huge economic driver for the rest of the city. And we're just understanding more and more, like other cities are, I think, that a healthy downtown is really key to a strong community. So this is our, not to get too in the weeds, but I think this audience might get this. Drilling down into downtown Oceanside. This is our 9-block master plan. So this was approved in 2000, over 20 years ago, and it is not even done yet. It's almost complete. I'm happy to report that the green boxes are the only things not complete. But I mean, think about since 2000, we had 9/11, we had the Great Recession, we had the dissolution of redevelopment. And then through that whole time, we had all the NIMBYs and all these external factors were in play over the last 2 decades. And it had an impact, as things do, as you said, Davia, market factors on execution of this plan. But as I said, I'm happy to report that most of it is now complete. So we have this master plan, but how do we ensure that, when private development does come, like we want it to, downtown Oceanside is safe, it's clean, it's attractive. So that's where this PBID came in. We established a property business improvement district in downtown Oceanside in 2019. You're probably all familiar with the concept, but basically it's an additional assessment on properties within the downtown that goes into a fund that pays for things like, extra power washing on the sidewalks and security ambassadors and wayfinding signage and all the things that enhance a downtown experience and encourage more development. This is a rendering of what our incentive district will look like. In 2019, we approved some amendments to our zoning code that were kind of antiquated and certainly weren't encouraging of development. So some of these included expansion of the TOD area. So we have a transit center there, and we wanted to expand the area that was included in the TOD area, according to the state. We increased density. We're allowing things like tandem parking and other tactics to encourage thoughtful development in the downtown and along Coast Highway. It's not quite approved yet. It's under review by Coastal Commission, but we hope to have that, in play in the next year. Having a transit station in your downtown is awesome, except when a train blows its horn at 4:30 in the morning next to your hotel window. So another enhancement we did to downtown was the approval of a quiet zone. We actually applied for this back in 2007, and it finally got approved earlier this year and is a notable improvement. We're seeing fewer complaints on Yelp about train whistles. Another proactive measure we're doing is improvements to our beachfront. We are putting in new restrooms, a new police substation. Eventually, we will be revamping the historic amphitheater down by the beach and the community center, just adjacent, to all the downtown amenities. And then, like other coastal cities, erosion is a huge problem. And without some kind of intervention, the main reason people come to downtown Oceanside, the beach, probably would be gone. So this past August, City Council approved moving forward with plans for beach groins and a sand bypass system. And we still need Coastal Commission approval for this, but it's a big milestone to just have those strategies approved and kind of in the pipeline. And then lastly, before I show you some downtown projects that have been completed, I'll mention this project. This is an 11-acre site just a couple blocks from the beach, as you can see from this aerial. It's owned by North County Transit District. They went through an RFP process in late 2019, and the city partnered with them to do that. Very thoughtful vetting of the proposals. Toll Brothers was chosen as the developer. The project will include residential units, commercial and office space, a hotel, new admin offices for NCTD. It's probably one of the biggest development coming down the pipeline in downtown Oceanside over the next 5 to 10 years. So then this slide shows the vacant site along Oceanside's beachfront. This was 2 city-owned parking lots, about 2.5 acres. The city went through an RFP process back in, I want to say it was 2005. It was a long time ago. And SD Malkin was the chosen developer. And so these are the long-awaited beach resorts. This is the picture under construction. When I was hired by the city of Oceanside in 2019 as these cranes had just been put up. And I'll tell you, as the economic development manager of a city, when you roll up to City Hall and you see cranes on the horizon, that is like success. So the developer painstakingly moved this historic Graves house, also known as the Top Gun house, which appeared in the movie famously. They renovated it on the site. It's going to be this cute little dessert restaurant. So the property to the north is called the Mission Pacific Hotel. It has a rooftop pool lounge, a fine dining restaurant. Between it and the Seabird Resort, which is just to the south there, they add nearly 300 additional luxury hotel rooms to downtown Oceanside, just taking things really to the next level in terms of, attracting new visitors and just kind of raising the bar for Oceanside. So that's an overview of what the city has done, in the last decade or two to encourage development and, proactively guide the process of improving our downtown rather than just, sort of having it happen to us.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's really exciting what's happening down there. You mentioned proactively engaging and making sure that these things happen and there's an opportunity for this development. Can you tell us a little bit more specifically what has changed with the city of Oceanside in terms of that engagement with the private sector and why? I mean, I've been hearing through discussions in preparation for this event from the private sector that there's been a real change in culture and tone. What does that look like and how do you think it's benefited this process?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really good question. I think the Great Recession was a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of cities. Crickets were chirping at the building department. People weren't submitting plans like they'd been, and I think cities had to look at, wow, development brings property tax, development brings sales tax revenue, it brings TOT. So we really need to work hard to make sure that development happens. And so let's sow the seeds. Let's do our economic gardening, that we can do in the city to make sure zoning isn't, burdensome and, requirements aren't burdensome and that we're just ready and willing and available to work in partnership with the private sector. So I think a lot changed, starting in maybe 2010, 11, and then we're kind of seeing the results of that now a decade or so later.
Thank you. One other topic I wanted to ask you about, I think we would be remiss in any context at this point in time to not talk about the social equity aspect that really infuses all that we do and everything we should be thinking about. You talked a lot about these gorgeous luxury hotels, and there's absolutely a place and a need for those. Can you give us a little bit more of the broader context? How is social equity and inclusion being addressed in a way that really is maintaining this community as an authentic community and a diverse community? What are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. You know, well, as part of our incentive district, we are requiring on-site affordable housing rather than developers, paying in lieu fees, so that, downtown housing is, has a wide range of price point. We in Oceanside are still one of the most affordable coastal cities in Southern California in comparison to our neighbors, to the south and to the north. We have a large population of veterans in Oceanside due to our proximity to Camp Pendleton. A lot of, military folks are stationed here, and then, they see what a great place it is to live, and they stay. And we have a lot of partnerships and programs with our veteran community. We are one of the most culturally diverse cities in North County, and we we partner really closely with our local community organizations to ensure that anything we do comes with engagement of all stakeholders in our community, every segment of the city.
Thank you. And one last question for you on that. In terms of feasibility of the inclusionary housing, I assume that's something you're working with the private sector on. I know that's something I get feedback on quite a bit. Is that something that's been a manageable conversation and you're starting to see come to fruition, or is that kind of in the nascent stages and just coming on board as a regulation?
Well, given that right now it's this incentive district is in the approval process with the Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Commission is very much on board with, obviously enabling public access to our coast. So, they're definitely on board with it, and we'll see as it kind of goes through the pipeline. But so far it seems to be a welcome addition to what we're doing.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. So let's transition now to North City. It's a bit of a different scenario compared to Oceanside. There was not this existing, historic grid and downtown in place when North City was conceptualized. The vision for North City emerged out of essentially nothing, with the exception of being adjacent to a growing campus for Cal State San Marcos. So there was a recognition that brought with it lots of opportunity, and also that San Marcos really needed a downtown. And of course, there is opportunity as well as risk in starting from scratch. But the proof of concept is there. North City is drawing top of market rents and attracting people from all over to its street scene, restaurants, and so forth. And just a fraction of the planned development has actually occurred. So it's really exciting to see this so clearly occurring at this early stage. So I'd like to I know we have Darren's screen up here. Hopefully we can see you here, Darren. I still see Michelle on my screen. But if we can highlight Darren, I'd love to hear from you about what your formula for success is and has been, and what are the key elements of that that you can share with this audience that have made this project possible and successful so far.
Sure. Thanks, Tavia. Can everybody see me? Yeah, great. Yes. Okay. So yes, North City is, gosh, it's a long-term project in the making. So we started acquiring bits and pieces of land adjacent to Cal State San Marcos starting in 2004. So the project at that point in time, the goal really wasn't a grand master plan downtown urban core. It was really more of an investment opportunity that we at Seabreeze Properties saw, where there was a blossoming university. There was talk about a sprinter rail coming in. The redevelopment agencies were still in existence. And we saw this, what was at the time more of an industrial business park, and thought that would be a great place to invest. But slowly but surely, we started to see some pretty exciting movement on the university side of things. Cal State San Marcos, back when we started in 2004, was at about 7,000 students, primarily a a commuter campus where students would be driving in from the region. And over the past, 2 decades now, it has transformed, and they are at about 18,000 students today. They are one of the fastest growing Cal State universities in their 23 school system. And San Marcos as a whole has started to somewhat blossom all around it with, what was more of an affordable suburban community really becoming a more exciting place. So the Sprinter Rail came in, and we had a great partnership over at the city of San Marcos. I'm not saying that just because Davia is on the line here, but really and truly, when we started talking to them in about 2006, 2007, about a specific plan for this neighborhood, they were right on board with that. So we got our approvals for the specific plan. It's known as the University District. And it's split down the middle by Twin Oaks Valley Road, another road that wasn't in existence at the time, that didn't go up and over the hill into San Elijo, which it does today, and connects you right into Eastern Carlsbad. The west side of the project, which I'll get a little bit more into in a little bit, is more of our residential core, where we have about 600, 700 for sale units being constructed as we speak. And the east side being more of our urban downtown with the large scale and density. So our total entitlements, we have roughly 2,800 residential units. It's a mix of multifamily, single family, and affordable. We have about 800 units of student housing, 450 hotel rooms, over 1 million square feet of office, and roughly 200,000 square feet of retail. And that's been changed over the years. When we started working on this project, as most people would know, this was going to be a Target anchored retail center, right? There was going to be a big box movie theater. IKEA was running around town looking for property. But as the 2008 financial crisis came and went, redevelopment went away, we really needed to shift gears and create more of that walkable urban downtown type core that was becoming more of the norm. Apologies, all right, a call came in and threw me off. So in 2014, we amended our specific plan with the city's assistance and got more of that urban walkable community entitlements locked in. And part of that, and I'm actually going to jump ahead here, is really based upon a parking. So in this slide, you can see this is an overview of our existing projects that we've built to date, which I'll jump into piece by piece in a minute. But really, one of the key factors to the success that we've been able to achieve here is centralized parking and shared parking. I mean, it makes a world of a difference, especially in Southern California, when you can park that same use a couple different times over. So, office does a great job of sharing a parking space with a residential use because it's not occupied overnight. And likewise, if you can create this core where people park their cars, it's hidden, and force them out into the streets so that they can walk around. It's all about some of that Jane Jacobs mentality where it's eyes on the street. You want people out and about, walking to the coffee shop that's located on the corner, but they have to get out of their car and walk to it, as opposed to pulling up and parking in a giant paved parking lot and walking right into their door. They get to meet their neighbors, and it just creates more of that vibrant community. So another big factor to our success thus far is the concept of form-based code. So form-based code is another concept that the city worked with us on. And what that really does, for those of you who don't have more of a planning background, is it really sets the metes and bounds of where the buildings are going to exist, but it doesn't necessarily define the uses that fit within that building. It allows the market to take shape. And in doing so, what we can really focus on are creating great people places, great urban plazas, have that more mixed use nature where you have ground floor retail, upstairs is residential or office or what have you. So, going with a form-based code, which I know there's a lot of talk of more so today than ever before, from a planning perspective, really gives us as the private developer more of the flexibility that we would need over a long-term master plan community to build what's right at the right point in time, and not set ourselves up for a battle with either our entitlements with the city later on, but instead allows for us to work hand in hand with that city partnership to define what the public spaces are really going to be, and let the market decide what the uses of the buildings are going to be. So in 2014, we completed our first project. It's known as the Quad. It's about 850 beds of student housing. So that's really where we leverage that relationship and adjacency to the university. They were in need of more housing. They have a few beds on campus specifically, but across the road was a more economical solution as opposed to building on the state's land. It was building on a private side of the road. And in doing so, we were able to achieve a really nice stepping stone for us to launch into what was the first market rate project, which was Block C apartments. So located just to the north of the Quad, it's 266 units. It's a mix of lofts, studios, 1s and 2 bedrooms. And we have a really amazing downtown urban core just on the south side of it with 10,000 square feet of retail with some very well-known tenants that we'll jump to in a bit. After that, we built Giraffe Republic, which was previously known as the Urge Common House. Perhaps many of you have been there. It's a 21,000 square foot brewery gastropub with a 8-lane bowling alley. Pima Medical Institute, they are a vocational school who was in the need for a build to suit, and our proximity to the freeway visibility was extremely appetizing to them. So we built that building and completed it in 2017. And then probably most exciting, we completed a project in adjacency and in partnership with the university. This is the CSUSM Extended Learning Building. It's a 6-story building. There was a P3, an RFP that went out to the community at the time for an extended learning campus or building to be on campus for Cal State San Marcos. And we went to the university and proposed that we build them a bridge across to our property, across Barham Drive, and you can see that little bridge right there. And we would build it on our campus. And in doing so, what we did was we really brought the 2 campuses together and formed this really cohesive unit that, yes, the student housing application did, but the extended learning building really paved the way for a true partnership. So here's a couple more views of the completed product. The Quad is a podium, ground floor, type 3 above, 24,000 square feet of retail. Block C, similar construction type. You can see some images of Giraffe Republic. They are soon to open. They will be opening in November. And then Mesa Rim Climbing Center, that's a modular metal building that we completed in the height of COVID, unfortunately. So many people have not been able to visit it just yet, but I welcome you to come on out and visit that. The extended learning building on the left-hand side, this is that P3 that we did with the university. It actually was the first public-private partnership completed within the CSU system for an educational facility, which is a really amazing accolade that we like to highlight. The Pima Scripps tilt-up concrete building right there in the middle. Scripps has taken the 3rd floor of that building. And then on the right-hand side, this is the Cube. This is a new student housing project, about 330 beds that's currently under construction. We just had the topping out ceremony 2 weeks ago. A list of some of the existing retailers. So you can, some of these names might be familiar, some might not be, but Copa Vida Coffee, Fresh Cafe, Giraffe Republic, Union Cowork, Mesa Rim Climbing, Umami, Utopia, and most excitingly, Buena Forqueta, their new location. And North City has really become that downtown for San Marcos. So we have those downtown type events. We hosted the Belgian Waffle Ride in July. That's the largest cycling event anywhere regionally in Southern California. Brought about 4,000 cyclists to San Marcos and to North City specifically. And then we host the San Marcos Farmers Market every Tuesday. Looking ahead, some of the upcoming projects, we have what we affectionately call Block 2, Planning Speak Again, and Block J. These are currently going through a site development permit process. We're looking at building more market rate housing. So this was a 450 unit building with 20,000 square feet on the ground floor and an adjacent grocery anchored building with a parking structure, a wrap around it. Both buildings would be type 1. Which from our standpoint, backing up, the way that we are financed is with a long-term view. We're really all about making sure that what we build now is going to be worth holding on to for 50 to 100 years time. And so with that mindset going forward, really going type 1 construction, which historically has not really been a thing in this far North County anyways. But the market rents, as most of you may know, are certainly helping underwriting this. Cost of construction is not, but at the same time, if you are looking with a 25 to 50 year view of the development, and the fact that it adds to the value of all the existing properties, it certainly is worth taking a stab at. And then block 4. So this is probably our most ambitious plan and something that we really think that San Marcos is ready for. What you're looking at here is roughly 1 million square feet of office in a campus style environment. So, when we talk about where large employers want to be, they want to be, number one, in a location where their employees and their talent can afford to live. San Diego may not be that affordable as on a national level, but from a local level, more so in San Marcos, it is affordable as compared to UTC or Torrey Pines neighborhoods, where most of the big tech or life science companies want to anchor themselves. The city of San Marcos would benefit tremendously from bringing a headquarter type flag to this location. And we have that urbanity, we have that walkable downtown vibe, we have the retailers to back it up. And also we have that youthfulness that adjacency to a university really provides to create that sense of excitement. The west side, which I don't want to overlook, this is probably the larger portion of the project from a gross acreage perspective. But we have a joint venture with Shea and Lennar Homes, where we're building about 650 for sale units. So initially, when we started having conversations with them, the goal for the starting price point was in that $400,000 range, which we all know is that missing middle, right? It's just, you cannot find brand new construction at that price point anywhere in Southern California these days. And so that's a hole that we're trying to fill. Obviously, with the cost of lumber going up and just in general, the sales prices today, that starting price point is creeping up a little bit higher, closer to the $500,000 range. But still, that's really our target, is to create housing for the masses, as opposed to just building all Class A, high-rise type structures that only the most affluent can afford. And that sums it up. Just a small little project in little San Marcos that, today is, we do a lot less waving of the arms as we used to. If you visit there, you really get a sense of the successes that we've had, especially with the fact that we've been able to attract some of the retailers that I mentioned previously, and the fact that, during COVID, our rents have only creeped up, our occupancy has only creeped up. People really and truly are making that decision to live in this downtown urban core community.
Darren, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the visuals that you provided. Really gives us a flavor for what's there and what we envision is going to happen. And I certainly appreciate the vision behind it all that you and Gary have brought. A quick question for you, and you touched on it a little bit with regard to the comments about COVID, but I think it's fair to say that the linchpin behind this project, at least on the east side, the downtown component, is the activation of the area, the commercial component, both occurring in the traditional mixed use, horizontal mix, or vertical mixed use sort of fashion, as well as a horizontal mixed use when you talk about Mesa Rim project and so on. That's been a really difficult and often infeasible development type to have that commercial loss leader oftentimes will really blow the pro forma for a project. Can you tell us if there are any variables or factors that have made that viable for the project? And maybe it's that long-term view of value that's working for you here. But can you talk about what's making that work? And then in addition to that, specifically in terms of COVID, you've done even better in COVID. What is the dynamic there?
Yeah. So, from a horizontal and vertical mixed use, focus, the retail certainly historically when we started out was was that loss leader. It was the amenity, right? We as we build more urban, more dense, more units per acre, can really, we can't build the large pool that our competitor set has. We cannot build that large gym that our competitor set has. And so at the beginning, we certainly had to underwrite a coffee shop coming in and anchoring us, and a pizza restaurant coming in and anchoring us. And in doing so, we started to realize the rents that we needed to see upstairs to help underwrite the future successes that we were hoping to get. And once we had Urge Common House specifically, back in 2017, when that 20,000 square foot brewery bowling alley opened up, it was somewhat of a secret gem that a lot of people were searching for. It didn't exist along the 78 corridor at the time. Sure, there was Stone Brewing, but this is more of that family-centric place. And in doing so, what it did was it drove a lot of people that were not university related. They were either higher earners and could afford to live in the premium units that we were offering upstairs. And so it was somewhat of a domino effect. I mean, we had one success with the coffee shop, we had another success with the brewery, and all of a sudden we found ourselves in a position where we could be a little bit more picky and choosy about who we brought in to anchor our retail. And in doing so, we were fortunate that we hit the market at the right time. And at the same time, I need to back up and just, the university's growth alone has been exponential, and it's been an incredible wave to ride. But at the same time, what we were setting out to do from the outset, and kudos to Sati Rabinas Architects, who were our master planners on this and have been our architects on just about every one of these buildings, they were really creating a place that was not just for the university students, not for the university staff, but more of a community place. So San Marcos had Old Restaurant Row, and the community was looking for something a little bit more modern and less dated. And we were able to deliver it at the right time in the right place. Speaking to COVID and and the successes that we've seen during that, there's certainly a lot of talk about people flocking to the suburbs and wanting the bigger home with the bigger yard. At the same time, that's unachievable for a large subset of our community and our neighbors. And so when they had a choice of where they wanted to live, and from an apartment standpoint, they wanted to be in a location where they didn't have to get in their car and drive to sit in another strip center, but instead they could go downstairs, and just off the lobby, they could walk into that thriving coffee shop, and across the street have an incredible sushi dinner, and perhaps even work out of the co-working facilities that we had just completed prior to COVID. So it was, again, a blessing in disguise in that regard. And we proved it out when COVID hit. Our occupancy at Block C actually went up. We were sitting at about 87, 88% and went right up to 97, 98%. And it wasn't because of university students. The school had closed, and they actually had left and moved back home. So it was really comforting to see that a lot of the new renters coming in were more of the higher earners and people who weren't just related to the university.
Thank you, Darren. And thank you for helping us. I think Paul phrased it as myth bust. A lot of us have really been asking the big questions about, what happens to these downtowns that we've invested so much in, and that really we've envisioned as our future, in the broader sense. And I think that today's presentation shows they're alive and well at the downtown scale. So if we can, let's shift now to the project level, the individual building project level, and talk about Lev's project or projects in the Vista area. So I think one of the really unique opportunities that we have in talking about the development or building scale is that you can create place elements that are responsive to the community and to the market in a much more specific fashion, which you have certainly done, Lev, with Found Lofts in Vista and some of the other developments that you have envisioned. So if we can spotlight Lev Gershman here, we'd like to hear a little bit more from you, Lev. You can talk to us, please, about Found Lofts and the other work that you are doing in Vista.
Great. Thanks, Tavia. Everyone can see my screen? Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. It's really interesting to hear the overlaps between the comments that Michelle's making and from Darren and Gary, and really seeing that there's this moment in time where there's this trifecta of liquidity in the marketplace, all of this planning that went into creating these places, as well as the scarcity of land and the need of housing. And it's such a cool time for North County. The moment's finally happening, and I'll reference some of the stories where Darren and Gary could probably speak to this. You're kind of being looked at as a pioneer, and now maybe it's a lot more self-evident. So Tideline Partners, we're a small-scale boutique infill development company. Our ethos is to really kind of enhance the quality of the human experience. We do that through buildings and placemaking. Our focus has been, since we started the firm in 2013, has been predominantly in North County. We've got 4 projects in downtown Vista and a 5th in the planning stages, and I'll talk a little bit about those. I love the variety of the neighborhoods in North County. Each one of them has something for someone, right? You've got Oceanside with the hospitality and entertainment and the coast. You've got San Marcos with a very different flavor. You've got Vista, you've got Escondido. So I think the corridors the day has come, which is a really exciting time. I went to school at 3 of the colleges on the corridor. I went to Palomar College, Miracosta College, and I graduated from Cal State San Marcos. So for me, it's kind of a cool homecoming. So as I said, our projects are in downtown Vista, an overnight success that was 30 years in the making. Our story is a little different than Seabreeze property with North City. We showed up and there was a plan in place. And actually the plan is what really attracted us to the opportunity in downtown Vista in 2013. The specific plan envisions a number of districts, and you can kind of see those here. There's a historic core that's got a very typical Main Street and a Broadway. There is a civic center district. There is a Paseo Santa Fe district, which is really envisioned as an arts and culture district. And for me personally, that was a place to kind of create impact and make a difference is in this corridor that when we first got to the city was really kind of Muffler Alley, if you will. It was a mile-long stretch between Civic Center Drive and Vista Village that had a 2-lane road in each direction. It was not pedestrian friendly, but the mayor, Mayor Ritter, long-term mayor, and the staff has been years in the making of cobbling funds together and creating this vision. And when we got there, the city was in process of this massive CFP project, which beautified this corridor that I just mentioned and put that particular stretch of road on a road diet and took the street from 4 lanes down to 1 lane in each direction, put in traffic calming measures with roundabouts, and widen the sidewalks and lighting and all of these things that at the time, actually the city got a lot of pushback because the community was thinking, what are you doing? There's nothing here. Why would you do that? Right. But it's this kind of stuff that attracted the development. So you're seeing here one of the arches that is on the Vista Village Center side of this corridor. There's a similar arch on the other side of the corridor. And there's a big emphasis on public art. There is a art community in Vista, and I really admire that in the planning processes in the districts, the city embraced that they have this unique DNA of the community. And the 3 roundabouts on this stretch are actually done by local artists as a call for artists. So, the local artists are celebrated and it shows. The sort of the intrinsic nature of Vista is it's bound by hills, which the name would suggest. So this corridor is sort of sandwiched. It's really a valley. It's also got a really fine grain, unlike North City, which is really an amazing success and a very different type of success. Vista is characterized by small lots in this corridor, particularly the average lot size is 7,000 square feet. It's got a number of natural creeks running through it. The city's done a great job restoring some of them and has future plans, but money yet to come for future projects to capture back some of that green space. There are a number of small businesses. So, you know, instead of a Starbucks, you have a Mike's Coffee, you have little yoga studios and coffee shops and art galleries and breweries. Vista prides itself on being the highest per capita microbrewery in the county and maybe the country. And certainly that's true. And because of the proximity to the 2 Sprinter light rail stops, as well as the Inland Rail Trail, which one of the key pieces was just announced to receive funding, running directly through the downtown, it really is one of the few downtowns on the corridor that really the heart of the downtown is right at the Inland Rail Trailhead, as well as these Sprinter stops. So a little bit about the project that I'll share with you today is called Found Lofts. It's a 42-unit, 5-story project. It's a type 1 podium with 4 floors of type 5 construction above. It's a project we started working on in 2014 with the city of Vista. It was some of their surplus land as part of the redevelopment efforts along the corridor. It was a really challenging site. It had 35 feet of elevation change. It had $750,000 of dry utility costs, and the math just wasn't working, especially back when I remember talking to a broker and I said, "Hey, what do you think about a podium project in Vista?" And he kind of just scratched his head and he said, "Well, you're really pioneering out there," which, you know, was kind of a compliment, but also a little intimidating. It's not quite so pioneering anymore. So we were able to work closely with staff, and that's one of the things I really compliment North County cities is senior staff is really approachable. And I think maybe as Michelle pointed out, you know, through the downturn, some of the elected appointed officials and city staff recognize that you really need development. You need to work with your private sector developers to enhance the community experience. So we've had and continue to have a really productive relationship with staff. And this project is an example of that. To overcome some of the site challenges and costs, we essentially went through a discretionary process, kind of leaning into this form-based code idea, where we kept the building envelope within the parameters that the specific plan dictated of 60 feet, and we had the setbacks and so forth as required. But we said, hey guys, if we can park it to code, can we put more units into the project? The city staff supported it. We went through a discretionary process of city council planning commission, got unanimous support. So we received 30% density increase on this project, which really made the math work. Again, another kind of pioneering thing at the time was terrifying was we have micro units. You know, by some standards, they're not micro units. By city of Vista standards, which historically is a kind of agrarian, kind of very suburban neighborhood, 435 square foot studio lofts are in fact micro units. So we were able to work with staff to allow leniency to put those units into place. We also worked with staff to amend the municipal code and allow for compact parking, which was not part of their downtown plan. And the fact that staff had an open mind to understanding that in an urban context, in this urbanizing neighborhood, efficiency, really efficiently using your resources is really key. So we were able to add 25% compact parking to the project. Another requirement, and this is very typical of cities, is to force mixed use, right? Hey, you got to have X number of feet of ground floor commercial space. Well, nothing's worse than having vacant new commercial, right? So again, we worked with staff to say, hey, let's look at some other cities and municipalities that have forward-thinking approach to land use. Let's create adaptable space. So instead of forcing us to have a minimum number of square feet of ground floor commercial space, which we have to carry tenant improvements and leasing commissions for, which is an immediate drag on your financials, let's do live work, right? And it could be adaptable. So our demising walls are non-load bearing. So when the corridor matures and the commercial rents grow to a point where they can support that use, you can turn the space. So another kind of unique aspect of this project, which you have to be creative, I guess, when you're pioneering. some of the value drivers that we saw in this project was we really wanted to create a naturally affordable project. So we did not use a density bonus approach here, but the goal was to price our units at 10 to 15% below competing properties. So for a 1-bedroom, that means that it's about $300 cheaper, which is significant. That's a car payment, or maybe it's your parking pass at Cal State San Marcos, and you've got the inland rail trail, and you've got the Sprinter stops right there. So affordability was a big one. The other one that we felt was important is activation, getting ground floor units and having eyes on the street, working closely with the local artist community and integrating into the community. We worked with the local art foundation, which we've done on our other projects, to activate the space. We are bringing in a international artist, a muralist from Denmark, to do a 60-foot mural. As far as I know, unless Darren and Gary are going to beat us to it, we have the tallest mural in North County, and maybe that's a challenge to you guys because you got some taller buildings, I think. So we're going to have a 60-foot mural with an artist coming from Denmark and kicking off our artist in residence program. So him and his wife and their 3-year-old daughter are going to stay at the building in the ground floor units. We'll have kind of a kickoff event with the local art community, and we're really excited because we feel that this project will really help spark the energy behind the vision for this corridor of arts and culture. And we're really excited to be a part of that growth for the city. Another project that we have is essentially just about 1 block away from the Fountain Lofts project. This is in the entitlements phase, and just like Seabreeze, we really believe in working with great designers. So Safdie Rabinas might be taking over North County. They are our architect for this project. It was entitled for 24 single-family homes detached. We seem to like hillsides. This is a 65-foot elevation change hillside, so significant amount of challenges there. And the site was entitled and set for sale for 3 years and wasn't trading. So I approached city staff and said, hey, you need density here. Your downtown businesses need a growing base of local customers, people that are not relying on their cars to access the businesses. And we received support and had a preliminary hearing to densify the site. So transitioning from 24 single family homes to another, it's probably more like a 75-foot tall building, but 2 floors of structured parking with 4 floors of type 5 construction above. And the big point we made on this project was, again, supporting the local small businesses and really fulfilling the vision of the downtown plan by having more people live, work in the downtown, even if they have to commute out of downtown in some cases for work. We converted a big portion of the space to green space, where the original entitlement plan had quite a bit of road and paved services dedicated to circulation. We're able to preserve 1/3 of the 3.5 acres towards green space for the folks in the community. The idea being, hey, you live in an apartment community, but you have a backyard. This acre that is maintained for you is your park.
Lev, I hate to interject now. This is such an excellent project and really excited to learn more about it. We do need to transition to our 1 o'clock Q&A. Thank you for that. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that in the next session. And you answered so many questions that we had regarding all the unique aspects of your project. I encourage anyone who is listening to go to downtown Vista, go to downtown Oceanside and check out North City. And hopefully we'll see you in a few minutes at the 1 o'clock session. Thank you to all the panelists, and we'll see you in a moment.